In this chapter, I want to show you how I tackle the front end of the cushion by adding more details to it. And to do that, I'm going to press the Tab key first of all to go back into the box modeling. Because if I switch between the smooth mode by pressing only the Tab key, you can see that the lines, when it's a box model and when it's a sub-D model, the lines are stretched in the sub-D, all right? So that means the vertices are not the same position as the box model. So it's always good habit, in my opinion, when you start, playing around with the vertices. I like to go into the box model so that I can select these points, for example, and see the impact it will have later on when I switch to sub-D. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move these points by pressing Ctrl-Shift and selecting the vertices one at a time and just moving them around like this using the gumball. All right, so I'm just moving these points and I'm gonna try to align them more or less in the box model. So I'm gonna move this point a bit closer here, and obviously because I have the reflect tool active, it's doing the same thing on the other side. So let's do it like that. So I'm trying to line up this edge here more or less straight, okay? And if I press the Tab key, you can see that when I go back to the smooth mode, those segments, are not still aligned to this. So I'm going to press back the Tab key and I'm going to select these vertices and just move them a bit further inwards like that. And let's see, when I press the Tab key again, it's a bit better. So maybe I'm going to use these vertices now and move them more outwards like that. I want something that looks more or less straight, as you can see here, okay? Now I could fidget around a bit longer trying to get exactly what I want, but I'm trying to create a sort of a pattern that, would make sense to me. Okay, let's say that this is something I can work with. And what I want to do is I can select these faces here. I'm going to show you different techniques, okay? So I'm going to select these faces, these sub-objects, and I want to give a sort of a illusion that it's a material, an additional material that has been added. So I select all these faces and I'm going to click on the extrude function and make sure that direction equals Y. And I'm just gonna go to the left viewport and just extrude. So I'm adding an additional face and adding additional foam material to my cushion. And this is the result I get. Now you can see that there's a bit of a recess here. So I can always do in the sub-D mode, in the smooth mode, using the vertex here by pressing Ctrl-Shift and just moving that vertex around, trying to get a nice continuity. So I'm just going to select that vertex and pull this one around. So like I always said, I'm just sculpting basically my model, okay? And I can select, for example, these edges as well and bring them higher up like this, ever so slightly. And maybe take this vertex here. And again, with the gumball, I'm just moving it around, move it upwards. Just try to make it look like it makes sense to you, okay? And then what I want to do is sharpen a crease in between this face and that face, okay? So all along here, so let me just highlight this. I have here a nice loop that goes all the way around, as you can see, okay? So this loop is important because, again, if I select, for example, just that segment, and I use the ring selection, so select edge ring on my sub-D toolbar, it's going to create that loop that goes all the way around. So make sure that you have this nice loop, all right? And then I'm just going to add another edge. So I'm going to click on Insert Edge, and you can snap in midpoint if you want to find the mid of that segment. So here it is, it found it, and I just press on it. So now by adding a segment, I created a crease. And if I press the Tab key to go back in the box model, and I double click to select it, here's my crease. Now in the box model, it may look a bit messy, but what matters is the end result. So if you press the Tab key This is what it looks like in the smooth mode. So while I have this selected, that loop, now with the gumball, I can bring it inwards into my cushion to accentuate the crease, as you can see here, like that. So it really creates this, sorry, this illusion that you have an additional material or different foam density, and you create that sort of cushion. Now the other thing I wanted to show you is how to create more of these creases using another technique, using the bevel tool. So the bevel tool is found here, okay? So for example, if I press Ctrl Shift and I select these 3 segments like that, and I select, for example, these 3 segments here, and let's say I want to select these 3 segments here, like that, I can use the bevel tool. So I'm going to go back to my box modeling mode. So I'm going to press the Tab key. So they're still highlighted, as you can see here in the box modeling. And I'm going to choose the bevel key. And with the bevel key, you can see that it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that I can choose on the thickness of my bevel. Basically, I'm actually creating additional faces on either side of that middle segment, basically. Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball it and say that's not too big, you know, something about this size. So I created these additional faces. If I highlight them, there you go. You know what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the color in my layer to make it a bit clearer, because I find it really hard to see. So let's make it like a sort of light gray. There you go, that's much better. All right, so you see that with the bevel tool, let me click undo just to illustrate that again for you, but this time I'm going to make it light gray, like that. So I'm going to do it again for you. I'm going to select these segments, 1, 2, and now I know that I need my 3rd segment, so I press the Tab key to select it, go back into the smooth mode so that I can make my selections much easier than in the box modeling mode. So I'm selecting these segments like that. All right, I'm going to press Tab to go back into my box modeling, and then I'm going to use the bevel key icon. Okay, so bevel mesh or sub D it's called. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to go and bring my cursor, and I just, well, actually I'm going to eyeball it and say about this big. All right, so now obviously it's going to reflect on the other side as well. And now I'm going to select the center of my bevel. Maybe I'm going to press the smooth mode so that I can select the 3rd segment here, and I'm going to do the same here. So let me see, I press Tab. Okay, here it is. I'm going to press Tab again so that I can select my 3rd segment. So you can see that when you press the Tab key, it's stretching your material. All right, so it's normal that you switch back and forth between the box modeling and the smooth mode. Once you've done that, and after you've done the bevel, of course, now you can, while you have these segments selected, you can bring now inwards, and you can see the creases happening with nice little folds like that. And it's really a very, very powerful way of doing this compared to using NURBS techniques. All right, so now I can emphasize the softness of that material. For example, I can select these faces, so I press Ctrl Shift and I select these faces, and I can, for example, pull them more forward like this. So it really gives a very organic look. So the aesthetics of it, it's not the best looking seat, obviously, you know, it's not a styling exercise. It's just to show you the different tools that you can use using the Subdi to create something that is pretty neat. Now, what I can show you as well, if I go in the left viewport, I find that the thickness of my cushion at the base and at the top of my cushion is a bit too equal to my liking. So if I want, I can use what we call the UDT, or the Universal Deformation Tools that we have in Rhino that we use with the NURBS surfaces. And the UDTs, if you haven't followed my other tutorials, they're found under the Move icon. So if I pull that toolbar, it's called the Transform toolbar. And basically the UDTs are all these icons that you find here at the bottom here. So you've got the cage edit, for example, you've got the twist, the flow, the bend, the taper, flow along curve, the shear, etc., etc. So you've got a whole bunch of these UDTs. So the one I'm going to use is the taper function. I'm just going to left click on this one, and it says the start of my taper axis. So I'm going to select the bottom part of my cushion. I'm just going to click on project so that it's along the symmetry plane on the ZY plane. So I'm going to click on project, and I'm going to have, you can have mid check or even uncheck, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to bring it at the base here. So that's the first point of my axis, and then it says the end of my taper axis. You can finish it at the top of the cushion here or a bit higher if you wish, so I'll leave that to you. But I'm going to give the same angle as the angle I find in my cushion. So I'm going to give it about this angle. And now what is important, make sure that in the options, when you click for the second axis for that taper, in the parentheses here in the command line, make sure that flat equals yes and infinite equals yes, all right? And then you can apply the taper. So now if I start applying the taper, you can see the upper part of the cushion is shrinking in width compared to the bottom part of my cushion, all right? So now I just made it slightly thinner at the upper part, and now I can take this headrest and just bring it a bit closer in like that, just to give a bit more of a more realistic feel to it. And if I go back to my perspective view, that's what it looks like, okay? So obviously, like I said, the patterns are not the best looking. Maybe I should have added, what I could do is add another segment here to increase, to add another crease, you know, I leave that to you. You can add another segment here, you know how to do that. You know, you just select one edge like this, you do a select edge ring here at the bottom on your Subdi toolbar. So it's going to create that ring that goes all the way around your cushion. And then you just do an insert edge, and I'm going to snap to mid. I'm just going to remove project this time, and I'm just going to snap to mid and find the mid here. And so now I can add another bevel and add another crease like that. All right, so do that, and I'll see you for the next phase. Thank you.